to this one. I heard Kirk Franklin was at this one. Please tell me that's not true. If it is, I am mortified as well as disgusted. Now, let's get into what is the big scuttlebug surrounding, before we get into Joe Budden, who are you guys ready and waiting for tomorrow night's big versus battle between Monica and Brandy is set to happen? Now, I know everyone has favored Monica or Brandy as the heavy to win the battle. I personally speaking feel like both of them have amazing hits, and I am excited to hear what they're going to play against each other, especially due to the fact that a lot of to me, Brandy skews a lot more pop early on in her career, whereas Monica definitely had more R&B hits. And then I feel like later on in the game, you probably see Brandy edging in with a lot more R&B hits, and Monica perhaps just kind of staying tried and true and experimenting with different sounds. But I'm excited for tomorrow night's battle. I don't even know. I think that I have more of an affinity for Monica's songs and more of an affinity for Brandy's voice, if that makes any sense. So I'm excited for both. Did you guys hear what Akon said regarding T-Pain? Now, I think by and large, I didn't realize that Akon was so bought into his celebrity that he had these kind of opinions. But Akon apparently said that T-Pain has not experienced as much success as he could because he believes that T-Pain has decided to lock himself too much into an R&B or, I guess, a black realm. Which I thought was funny because to me, I think T-Pain has shown himself to be nothing but successful. And quite frankly, the whites love T-Pain. Like, I'm at the bar. White people love that shit. Boots with the fur. Y'all love boots with the fur. Y'all love boots with the fur. So I don't know what Akon is talking about. Speaking of boots with the fur, last but not least, and this is probably going to be why many of you will probably tune out and just tune in. This is probably going to be the part where you tune out and tune in during the setting of the table. But this week on both episodes of the Joe Budden podcast, Joe got into how he was leaving his exclusive deal with Spotify and leaving the platform. Now, he said that he will no longer be exclusive to Spotify after September 23rd. Suggesting that after September 23rd, it may not even be on Spotify at all. Now, he has not announced where the cast and crew of Merry Men will be taking the posthumous podcast, but did say that the show will continue on and that you will not be missing the show because it is not going anywhere. Now, in his rant, which was almost a 3-hour rant, he claims that his show exceeded Spotify's audience reach expectations by 900%, to the point that the listeners seemingly crashed the platform when he originally started out exclusively to Spotify. He said he never received a bonus, him or his crew, and that the company wouldn't allow him and his team to take vacation days on Christmas and New Year's Eve because that would have required them to miss 2 episodes. Now, while the company wouldn't pay them actual bonuses, it offered them Rolexes instead, only to tell them that the Rolexes that they picked out were too expensive. Now, he later went on to say that the streaming platform pillaged the audience and used his podcast to do so. He compared, he says, compared to 2 years ago when he signed to Spotify, podcasters can find better deals from multiple companies, and he suggested that Spotify was only interested in finding new popular shows rather than feeding the podcast ecosystem. He claims to be the guinea pig for Spotify's podcast ambitions because he was already established and he brought a huge audience to the streaming platform. Now, I don't want to bore you guys with too much, but in a statement to Verge, the online media outlet, Spotify said it wished to keep Button on the platform. As Joe referenced on his show, we made him a considerable offer, one that was significantly larger and many times the value of the existing agreement, reflective of the current market and size of his audience. Unfortunately, we could not come to terms, and we respect his wishes to find a new home for his show. Now, Button isn't the first Spotify-associated podcast to speak up about the industry. The host of the Spotify podcast, The Nod, which Spotify owned the show after the company acquired Gimlet Media, spoke out in June about their issues with the show ownership. Brittany Luce and Eric Eddings say that they built their own show from scratch and the audience that they brought with it, and unfortunately they didn't own any of the rights to the show once becoming part of the Spotify Gimlet game. Spotify has made headlines in the industry by signing most recently Joe Rogan, Michelle Obama, and Kim Kardashian to exclusive shows. Now, the terms of none of those deals are clear, but it is clear that podcasting has clearly become a huge money maker, and that the balance right now is that many hosts want ownership and payment, and Joe Button is not far from that. He did not clarify if he is entertaining other exclusive offers or whether that he thinks that there is a future for him and his team in podcasting. However, it cannot go unsaid that he and the Joe Button podcast team have not paved the way. However, I think for many podcasters who are aware of Joe's history, you are aware of his schism, if you will, with the legendary podcast, The Read, with hosts Crystal and Kid Fury. Now, he went on a rant years ago, not too long ago, but years ago, about them not having a great deal, calling them bums, specifically calling Crystal a bum bitch. And, you know, he, this Saturday, seemingly seemed to, you know, and I think that this is So I think there are two different issues here. I think when we look into what Joe is saying about podcasting, he's absolutely right. I think that ownership is not just a big deal in the record industry, in the writing industry, in the clothing industry. Ownership means something. Ownership means that I get to net revenue. You know, we get to play the game the same way that white people play the game. Ownership allows them money for not just now, but in the future, you know, and that is why ownership means something. That is why the allowance for not only Joe, but other podcasters to play in the arena where residual income becomes, especially when you are making multiple episodes. I mean, my hat has always been tipped to the Joe Budden podcast for coming up with content, not just one day a week, but twice a week. That takes a lot. It takes a lot in the podcasting world to be able to do that. And the fact that they've been able to do it for this long is a big deal. But I will say that, you know, it's not the way that he approached his thoughts regarding podcasting and ownership and the streaming platform and getting the information that you are rightfully owed, in terms of stats as it pertains to your show. But I think that the reason why I've always looked at him with the funny eye is the way that he handled Crystal and Kid Fury at the time that he had so much to say. The way that he handled them was disgusting, and he never really apologized. You know, it isn't until, and I think this is the problem that many people have with a lot of black men who then get on their high horse and talk about how white people aren't treating them right and how we have to get together as a people and join in unity so that they can get the dollars that they want. I think a lot of times that's the problem, is that too often black men want us to join in on their fight when it only serves to benefit them. When it doesn't serve to necessarily benefit them, they are ready to call black women and you know, non-hetero black men, they're ready to talk to them as though they are pieces of shit. Which often leads me to believe that black men don't want equal rights for us. They want the same rights as white people have so they can really assert their aggression over people who they deem less strong. My opinion. So though your opinion and the facts that you're spitting, Joe, about podcasting and the podcasting community are right on time, and ownership in this time is very important, I think that until you walk back your statements and the way that you called her a bum bitch and you never apologized. But the fact that she is now making jest that you came at them about their contract, not knowing the terms of their contract. And here you are now crying about your contract and the terms of it. And when she says something about it, you are then getting on your show talking about the loudspeaker network niggas and how, you know, if they would just, y'all are not in the same lane, and if they would just listen to you, and this is not the time for black people to be fighting against each other. It was never the time for us to be fighting against each other. I'm sorry that you're now just waking up when the terms of your deal don't seem to work for you. Now, I love you. And this is not a beef thing, because I listen to you twice a week. I listen to The Read. And I am always open and ready and available to say, hey, you know what? You have the right to your facts. You don't have the right to your own opinion. You have the right to your own opinion, not your own facts. I gotcha. Just checking to see if you're listening. All right, so let's take a break, and we're going to come back and we're going to set the table. Okay. And we are back. So every week we set the table, and this week, as we are rounding out the dog days of summer and getting ready to go into the fourth and final quarter of this year, it's been a rough year for us. It's been a rough year, but it's also been a blessed year, and it's been a year of gratitude and abundance and great manifestation and great love and great beauty. And we've been just radiating exactly what we've been putting out there.